Hello, the internet, and welcome. Happy Friday to another episode of Enter the Popverse. I am, of course, your host and video producer, Ashley Victoria Robinson, and I want to welcome you to our weekly roundtable chat show with so many amazing guests today. We're stacked today, my friends. I'm so excited. If you don't know, Popverse is, of course, a virtual realm created by Read Pop, where we are celebrating the best in TV, movies, and comics and trying to bring that to you each and every single week. I want to remind you, of course, that you can always find more details and everything over at thepopverse.com. We will have all kinds of links in the show notes for all the cool stuff that we're talking about today. But everything is always over at thepopverse.com. And for full access to all the video, written content, amazing projects that we're always working on and evolving, get yourself a Popverse membership while you're over there. Why don't you? Why wouldn't you want to do such a great thing? We have our first comment. Jake Hefner says, happy Friday, Popverse. Happy Friday, Jake Hefner. How is it going? How is everybody doing? Okay, my friends, I also want to remind you that this weekend, if you are a UK Popverse fan, if you are a European Popverse fan, or if you want to travel to London, we have MCM Comic-Con going on right now, right this very second until Sunday. And then our next live show is going to be June 30th to July 2nd at Florida SuperCon in Miami. I am going to be there. There are so many amazing guests. If you are a DC movies fan, if you are a gay pirate fan, if you are a comic book fan, you're going to really love it. Please come and check us out there. I'm so excited. It's my first Florida SuperCon, and I'm very excited to be a part of it. Now, I know you're here because you saw the thumbnail and you want to join me in welcoming back. This is our first welcome back. This is our first returning virtual interview. She was one of my very first, maybe the very first. I think she was the very first person I ever interviewed for Popverse. Please put your virtual hands together. We're going to give a round of applause. That joke is never old. If you went to theater school, this lives in your brain. Please join me in welcoming an incredible writer behind Spider-Man Social Dilemma, Star Wars Clone Wars Anthology, the newly published Magic Has No Borders, and the upcoming Spider-Man's Bad Connection. Please join me in welcoming the one, the only, the beautiful, the talented Preeti Chhibber to the stream. Hi, Preeti.
Hi. What an intro.
I see that you have the props in the background set up appropriately for our conversation today.
I know. I moved them. They were too high and you couldn't see them on camera, so I moved them down.
I also want to shout out your WGA Strong shirt because very topical, but also a very cool design.
Yes, I think they're WGA Strike shirts on Twitter is where I found it, and all the funds go to the entertainment. I can't remember the exact name of the charity, but it's to help the people. The fund. It's to help the people who are not writers, but who are maybe getting impacted in entertainment by the strike. So it's a great cause and a great way to show solidarity.
Yes, we want to support all of our support all the support staffers.
Yes.
Tiffany Bab, our beloved, says, "Yay, Preeti!" I mean, everyone should be as excited as we are that you're here today. Okay, let's get into it. The last time you were here, of course, we talked all things Spider-Man Social Dilemma. Yes. I want to congratulate you on the publication of Magic Has No Borders.
Thank you.
Before we get into the Spider-Man of it all, tell me a little bit about Magic Has No Borders.
It is an anthology. You know, May is AAPI Heritage Month, which is in the US, and it's really exciting. And so this anthology just happened to come out this month, and it is full of stories by South Asian authors, retellings and mythological tellings of folklore and all these things that we love. And so it's really cool. It was edited by Sona Chiraipotra and Samira Ahmed, who you may know from writing this Marvel for Marvel Comics.
Yeah.
Just a little lady that we know.
Yeah. Small impact on the cultural landscape,
tiny impact. And it's really cool. It's just like a bunch of really to show the breadth of what South Asia can represent, and that we're not just one thing. So it's really cool to be a part of this anthology. And of course, it's not within arm's reach. I left it just out of arm's reach, but it's really cool.
That happens to me so much where I'm like, I have that action figure. It's over there. I have the poster. It's in that room.
I literally thought of it when like the countdown got to like 10 seconds and I was like, oh no.
That's so funny. I've had people before where at like 5 or 10, I see them get up and walk away. Usually get a glass of water and I'm like,
I was like, I'm not going to do it.
Please come back. Okay, so I want to ask too about Magic. Magic Has No Borders. What's the tone of it? Because we think of you, and I definitely think of you as like a middle grade girly. So are you doing a little bit more like mature audience writing?
Definitely young adult. Like the book is definitely a young adult novel. So we have like Sabaa Tahir in it. Like you have all these amazing YA authors who are part of it, and I love YA. YA was like my first love in children's lit.
Same.
Middle grade is where I found my sweet spot, I think, because I love terrible jokes. And middle grade readers love terrible jokes.
What does this say that I think your writing is very funny? What does it say about my taste in particular? Oh no, I'm stressed.
It's perfect. It says that you have a good sense of humor. That's what it says.
Oh, thank you. I would love to know, like, you're in your processes and in your writer's brain, is it tough to switch between like two tones in that way? Because you can be a little edgier when you're not doing middle grade stuff.
It's true. It's funny. I was writing, I think I was writing the first Spider-Man book and a YA novel at the same time, which was a very interesting experience. And one was present tense, one is past tense. It was like a whole thing of going back and forth where I was like, I don't even know if I'm like a real person anymore. I don't know how to think about things. But it's not, because it's all so character focused. Everything to me is character focused. So it doesn't feel like any sort of like paradigm shift to go between the two, because I'm always so focused on whose story I'm telling. That part isn't really hard. Something that was surprising sometimes with Spidey though is when they're like, this is too edgy, but it would be like something that I'm like, really?
Wait, will you give us?
I don't know if I can say what it was.
Oh, I want to know. I'm like, can you give a vague example? But I understand.
But it would be like if someone said like, you can't say freaking. And I was like, oh, it wasn't that, but it would be along those lines.
Right, and you're like, I would think that's very safe, but like,
right. I was like, oh, that's okay. I guess, sure.
So you recently were able to announce the title of your sophomore Spider-Man novel, Spider-Man's Bad Connection. So tell me about it. I'm so excited.
It's right here. It's the galley. Wild. I just got these like 2 weeks ago. It's Spider-Man's Bad Connection. At the end of Social Dilemma, I guess no major spoilers, but there's a pretty big thread that is not fully wrapped up. And so I get to continue that thread in this book with, it's so funny. So when I was pitching this trilogy in 2019, I think, 2020, like late 2019, early 2020, that feels wrong, but it's right. I don't know.
I was going to say that's quite a quick turnaround. I'm genuinely impressed.
It was very fast. It was very, very fast. But when I pitched the trilogy, I was trying to think of villains for these books that like, they're all Spider-Man villains, but I was like, what are the ones that I want to write? And what are the ones that were fun ones? So like the first book, Sandman, is a big part of it because Sandman, I felt like people are like somewhat familiar with. It was a great like entry point for kids like who are picking up maybe their first like novel concerning Spider-Man. It's easy to like sort of digest his powers. And then the second book, I was like, I want to go a little like weirder, and I want to go for one of my favorite Spider-Man villains, which is the Spot. And I was like, no one writes about the Spot. Nobody cares about the Spot. I love the Spot. My favorite Spidey panels, like top 5 Spidey panels, are like when he's punching at the Spot and accidentally punching himself in the face. Like I love them. And then it got announced like years. I got approved. Everything was going. And then they were like, the Spot's going to be the villain in the Spider-Verse movie, in the second Spider-Verse movie. And I was like, oh no. But now I'm just like, we just all like the same things. Like we are simpatico. We understand what makes the Spot such a great villain to Spider-Man, and just how like the Spot is such a great vehicle to like really express Peter's frustration. And it's so fun. It was like such a fun thing to write in this book.
Jake Hefner echoing everyone's love of the spot. The spot
Yes.
episode of the 90s Spider-Man cartoon is still one of my favorites. And Jawin chiming in to say that Spider-Man Social Dilemma is one of my favorite Spidey stories of the last 10 years. Preeti hit that web bullseye.
Thank you. That's awesome.
We all trust Jason Inman's opinions very much. So I'm going to say, take this as gospel. It is a scientific fact.
Yes.
Great, because one of my questions is, tell me about the spot, and you're so psychic and you got it. Okay, you and I, the last time we chatted, shared a lot of our mutual love of Mary Jane, and we talked about you bringing your version of MJ to the forefront. So just for my gratification, maybe nobody else's, can you tell me what MJ's getting up to in book 2?
She's sort of continuing it's hard because I'm like,
I know, spoilers.
I'm like, I can't say too much. The book comes out September 5th, so we've got a little bit of time before it actually
pre-order now.
Yes, please pre-order it. That makes the people that I work for very excited. It makes them think, hey, we should do stuff for this book. But MJ is back. This is still the same sort of like where it's not just Peter's story, it's Peter and MJ's story. So MJ gets her own POVs. We've got, in the last book, they made some movement on their relationship. And in this book, we got a little bit more like, okay, well, what does that mean? How do you deal with it? How maybe
all I want is for people to kiss. It's like all I want in my fiction.
They're still, they're sophomores in high school. They have all this stuff going on, and they are dating. They're together, and they're figuring out what that means, not just obviously from a YA, from a high school perspective, but from like a Spider-Man perspective.
Yes.
What does that look like? And it's really fun to be able to write that in a moment where Mary Jane has her own POV, so we can see how she's feeling about it and the issues that I think a lot of people would come up with. One thing is like, how do you balance problems? How do you balance needs in a situation where your boyfriend is Spider-Man? Like, how are you like, but I have a problem, when his problem is like punching himself in the face because of the spot.
I also would love to know, what was it like writing the dynamic of like, now you have Team Spider-Man, and I know you've written a version of Team Spider-Man in the past, but was that different than the secret identity journey from Social Dilemma?
Yes. Now, there are Peter, it's a little bit easier for Peter. It's a little bit harder for Mary Jane. Peter is now like, oh my God, I could talk to somebody. I can like say things to someone. I don't have to be inside of my own head like all the time, which is one of the reasons I wanted to get the secret identity off the plate a little bit. Like, I know it's controversial and it's been done in very impactful ways.
Hottest of takes.
But I just felt like it would be so nice to be able to have them talk about things without the wall between them. So that first book is really like, this is what it looks like when he can't tell her things, and this book is like, this is what it looks like when he can, and she can actively participate in this, and what that means for, again, both of them, and being a teenager and having these like sort of seismic things happening.
I would also love to ask, because you are a noted Spider-Man fan as well as a Spider-Man creator. It's on your website bio, which I think is so adorable and I love so much. Please give me all your feelings about Across the Spider-Verse.
I'm so not ready. I'm like so excited, but you have to understand, I've been dying for like Popverse to be like, literally I walked out of Across like Into the Spider-Verse in 2018 and was like, please put Spider-Man India in the next movie.
Yes.
Like, that was like the first thing. I was like, please, it will be so awesome. And, they have like Gunn and Sony is voicing him, which is really exciting. It seems like he's going to be a really big part of this plot. And I've loved Spider-Man India for a long time. There's this like, I've written about it, I've talked about it before, but there's this panel in the comic run, Spider-Verse comic run, that Dan Slott wrote, and Dan knows because I tag him in it all the time. Where I'm like, this is the best, and it's Popverse, and he's sitting there and he's like so down, and Spider-Man UK is like, "What's up, man? What's going on?" And he's like, I don't understand how to feel about this when we're just reflections of this other person." And Spider-Man UK says something along the lines of like, "Who's to say he's not a reflection of you? Like, we are all Spider-Man." It was the like impetus for like anyone can put on the mask essentially, but it validated that every Spider person was Spider-Man in their own right. They weren't just iterations.
Mm-hmm.
They exist as wholly and as complicated and as important as whatever Spider-Man you choose to follow. And so to see him now be a part of the Spider-Verse journey is like so exciting and so validating.
I really love that you use the word holy, because superheroes and like the morality that characters like Spider-Man in particular bring, like are aspirational. Like
Yes.
you said that and I had like a real like spiritual like moment inside my soul. Preeti, I've already kept you longer than I promised, but I would love to ask you our final question here in the Popverse. What are you geeking out about right now that you are not working on? So no Spider-Man choices.
I don't even want to tell you how many hours I have put into Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
I looked at it, finally updated the like play activity today. This game has been out 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's so embarrassing how many hours I've clocked, but it's so good. Yesterday I had to turn something in. I was like, I have to work on this. And so I couldn't play all day. And I literally had to leave my apartment because I was like, I can't be in the same space as my Nintendo because I physically just want to pick it up and play it.
Oh my God. That makes me so happy. And it makes me all the more grateful that you decided to join us today in the Popverse. Magic Has No Borders is out right now. Bad Connection is coming up. You can pre-order it at your favorite bookstore, indie bookstore, local comic shop. You can also pre-order on Amazon. Please do. Follow Preeti every single place on the internet. She has the funnest I think of anyone I've ever talked at Rum with Skizzers. I will leave it up to everyone to figure out the spelling. Thank you so much, Preeti, for being our first repeat guest and for joining me to geek out about Spider-Man again.
Always. Thank you for having me.
Bye. Ah, friends, how great was that? I'm so excited for Bad Connection. We're going to talk about it in the fall when it comes back. But today is a really, really special episode of Enter the Popverse. Not only is it our 15th episode, which when I pitched this, I couldn't have possibly ever imagined making it to 15 episodes. Aw, so sweet. Tara's in here says, thank you, Preeti. So polite. But Preeti's not our only guest today. We have another incredible comic creator joining us, another fantastic voice in the space. So, my dearest, darlingest friends, please, as all theater kids do, let's give a round of applause. Let's put our hands together for the creator of Justice Warriors, founder of the Nib, Matt Bors is joining us today. Hi, Matt.
Hey, what's happening? Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining. I sure didn't ask how to pronounce your last name before I brought you on, so I hope I did justice.
Yeah, you got it.
like the Arthurian knight.
I learned it's Hungarian. And in Hungarian, it means pepper, which is kind of
Ooh, I love that.
Matt Pepper.
Matt Pepper. That's your streamer name? That's your like superhero name? That's in some other extrapolation, your secret identity. Matt's been having quite a week this week, and I could not do this chat alone because we've written some incredible coverage. I say we, it has all been our one and only Tiffany Babb. So welcome, Tiffany, to our chat today. Okay, Matt, first of all, how has your week been? How has the decompression? How has all the love that's come your way from the internet been?
That actually good.
Good.
You know, I announced that the Nib was going to close later this summer, and that the new issue that's out will be our last one. And you know, a lot of people were kind of shocked and saddened by that. For me, it's something that I've been walking up to for a while. You know, so I've had a little more time to deal with it. So I was kind of okay with it by the time I made the announcement, but there was a huge outpouring of readers and contributors that were writing me, you know, privately and publicly to talk about it, and that's been nice.
Oh, nice. Wait, I also want to ask, because this was in your bio, where in Canada are you?
Oh,
are you
I don't say for
saying?
I'm in like rural Ontario.
Yeah. I am from Ontario originally, so I was
cool.
like, I wonder if we were neighbors at some point.
Yeah, I'm from the US, but I moved up here a few years ago to my wife's hometown, basically.
Wild. I did the opposite. So that question was for nobody except me. Oh, that's okay. Tiffany, can I throw to you? Because you wrote all of our coverage. So give us some of your insights and let's see what Matt has to say about it.
Yeah. Hi, Matt. It's nice to meet you. Congratulations on running the Nib for 10 years.
Thanks.
And I think this week everybody's always respected the publication, but this week is kind of a moment to celebrate all that you've done. And as you wrap up your time with the publication, what are you most proud of over the last 10 years?
I mean, I guess there's a lot. I mean, I'll throw out there, not to pat myself on the back too much, but
Pat yourself on the back.
We paid out $2 million to cartoonists over the course of the 10 years and ran, that's, to publish thousands and thousands of comics, a lot of them exclusive to the site, and journalism that included, sending people places. The thing that I'm most proud of for sure is the magazine, which we didn't launch until, I don't know, 6 or 7 years into publishing. This is the last issue, the future issue, which has a good cover to go out on. It's a Ben Passmore comment on AI art. But, the magazine is definitely the thing that I was sort of obsessively moving toward for years and really wanted to create. And it would be nice if it could go on for longer, but I feel like I did everything I wanted to do with it. And we also you did 15 shows. We did 15 print magazines. So the magazine maybe is what I'm most proud of.
As you wrap up your time with the publication and with the magazine, is there anything you want to tease with what's coming up in the next couple months? You have one more issue and then you have 3 more months of online publication.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to tease with the Nib. It's just, we're going to run our regular weekly people, and then everything that we still have some from the previous issue, the magazine, and the current issue that's coming out to run online. So that usually takes months usually, because there's big pieces that we do one a week. There's no real plans for me beyond the Nib. I mean, I'm a lifer in comics, so I'm gonna do comics. I want to do more of my own comics. I don't really have anything lined up in particular, other than the series I think we're going to talk about, Justice Warriors.
Yes.
That's intended to be like a long running series with multiple volumes. So I'm going to work on a second volume of that, and then beyond that, I don't know. I have ideas for things in the back of my head, but I'm not really moving on anything yet.
Is it freeing to have that kind of unknown before you after so much dedicated content on such a schedule?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, for one, I was doing political cartoons for 18 years and I quit those in 2021. And definitely since then, I've been, itching to sort of do more of my own work again. I mean, I'm a cartoonist first. Mm-hmm. And then for the last 10 years, I've been running the Nib, which has been great and rewarding in a lot of ways, but also, running a daily publication. It's like, there's always something coming up, always something to do. And that hasn't really stopped yet. Mm-hmm. It'll start slowing down soon because we're not going to be working on another issue of the magazine like we have been for years. So I'll start to get freed up. And then I think I can start, thinking about these other comic ideas I mentioned and how to approach them, or have some time to actually work on something else for the first time in a long time.
Speaking of Justice Warriors, you just had your first trade out a couple months ago. Congrats on that. For people who don't know, it's great satire about policing and government from a sci-fi perspective. What was it like to work as a cartoonist to work with another artist or artists, because you had a color artist?
Yeah, I loved it. Didn't have to do as much work. I mean, Ben Clarkson is the co-author and co-creator on this, and Justice Warriors is sort of his brainchild, and he brought me in. And it's just sort of the type of thing that I've gravitated to for a long time, even if I haven't produced this kind of work, which is genre fiction, sci-fi, satire. It's right up my alley. So yeah, I mean, it was great to work with other artists. Like I said, I didn't have to do all the drawing myself. If I did, I wouldn't have been able to make it because I was working at the Nib full time. But I like that collaborative process. I mean, the Nib is kind of like that as in an editorial way. You know, we get together, the editors, we talk about the theme of the issue, what we want to assign, if there's subjects that aren't covered, and we kind of produce it together collectively. And, you know, I like collaborating. I mean, I like producing my own work, but I want to do a lot more collaboration in the future. I like writing, and I'm perfectly happy to let people who are better at drawing than me draw the stories.
Tiffany alluded to the unique tone that Justice Warriors had. I really want to describe it as Judge Dredd, but funnier in a lot of ways. Like, it gives me that vibe of like English comics. And I want to know how you found what that was going to be, because it is such a fine line between being kind of scary, but then very funny.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you might be able to see this. I have an insane Judge Dredd collection there. So I'm a big fan of that. Although, like I said, Ben really kind of came up with the whole world and pitched it to me to create together. So, you know, I think you're right. We're trying to be a little funnier and even more over the top than Judge Dredd, trying to be more political than really maybe, you know, anything on sort of the monthly comics racks. And also have fun with it. Like, you know, it's an action story. It's got lowbrow humor and poop jokes, and also, you know, talks about police violence and capitalism and stuff. So we're trying to hit a lot of boxes, tick a lot of boxes, hit a lot of targets. I don't know the right way to phrase it, but yeah, that's what we're going for.
One thing that really stood out to me with this comic was how dense it was, like both with the amount of jokes, the bits, even visually. Do you feel like that comes from your background as a political cartoonist?
Yeah, you know, me and Ben are kind of on the same page with a lot of our influences and our politics and everything, and we really wanted it to be like a maximalist comic and really sort of almost overwhelming to read and digest and look at. There's a ton of background jokes or just information. You know, everybody is a different kind of mutant, which isn't super convenient when you're drawing it. But, you know, Ben has to come up with crazy designs for every random background character. There's a lot of, you know, urban blight and graffiti and just surveillance cameras everywhere. And like, we wanted you to, like, the world itself, the world of Justice Warriors, which takes place in Bubble City, which is a domed city where that's perfect. Everybody's happy. There's no crime inside. And then outside is a huge, sprawling, really unending place called the Uninhabited Zone, which is, of course, inhabited by millions upon millions of mutants. So that's the basic setup. And the world itself is sort of a character that, you know, guides everybody. So we really wanted it to be as immersive and as detailed and do as much world building as possible.
I would love to know, because we're winding down our time with you, what is your best advice to aspiring creatives? And I think because you come from such a unique history, maybe your best advice on collaborating with a lot of other people, because doing both journalism and creating comics require teamwork, and you've sort of extolled the virtues of that in our chat.
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, collaborate. I never really thought about advice for collaborating with other people. I don't know. You know, the point of collaborating is that other people can bring in good ideas, and then you get to, you know, take co-credit for them. I mean, you know, you kind of, I mean that in the way that, like, you know, you got to sort of put your ego aside a little bit, and if you want to do some pure vision of how you see things, then you're going to have to write and draw and letter a comic on your own. And then, which, you know, as a cartoonist who does all that, I know sometimes we do have that vision, and like, you want things to be a certain way. I know I have like high standards for how I want Justice Warriors to be and how I want a Nib magazine to be. But you work with talented people, and then they also bring good ideas to the table. And then like with the Nib, everybody says, well, the Nib is great and we love the Nib. And it's not, you know, I get a lot of credit for it. It's not just me. It's like people that I work with, like a Larry Harris and Maddie Lubchansky and tons of other people who bring ideas in and make it what it is.
It seems like it's just be incredibly talented, because you do all the parts of making a comic, and then bring in incredibly talented people.
Yeah, if you're talented and you work with other talented people, you can't go wrong. So that's
I would love to leave you both with the same question that I asked Preeti when I sent her off. What are you both geeking out about right now that you are not working on? Dun, dun, dun.
I'll say I'm geeking out on my daughter's illustration book that she's working on, which is just a bunch of random characters, mermaids and princesses and stuff that she absorbs through shows, and she's pretty good. She's a pretty good artist, as opposed to my younger son, who I love, and he has many other great attributes, but cannot draw anything.
Your son and I are of the same ilk. How about you, Tiffany?
That sounds great. I am geeking over. I'm almost finished with R.F. Kuang's new book, Yellowface, which is about a woman who her literary star best friend dies, and she steals her manuscript and tries to pass it off as her own. And it is this satire about the lit world, but also possibly like the best novel about Twitter ever written. So highly recommend. I'm like this close to deleting my Twitter at this point of the book. But it's just so funny and terrifying, but also it's such a great read.
Tiffany, thank you. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to send you away because we've had you on and we'll have you on many times in the future. And we're going to wrap up by saying goodbye to Matt. But Matt, thank you so much for joining us here in the Popverse today. You are at Matt Borsch. It's just the name everywhere on social media. Justice Warriors can be ordered everywhere fine comics are had. Is there anything else that you want to point people toward before I send you two into the ether?
I would just say go to thenib.com and you could buy the new issue, the future issue, and then most of our back issues, which are still in stock.
There you are. Thank you so much for joining us here in the Popverse and holding it down in my homeland.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye. Whoa. Every time we get to talk any kind of journalism and Tiffany joins us, I feel like I get so much smarter for having gone through all of that. So Tiffany joining in, congrats the nib. I think it's supposed to be congrats to the nib, but I want congrats the nib on a t-shirt now, and I want to wear it all the time. Okay, friends, it's going to be a long show today because we do have one more story to talk about. I know you've waited this whole episode saying, where is the unofficial co-host? And my darling dears, I'm telling you, he's coming right now. Hold your horses. Join me in one final round of applause as we welcome mainstay of Enter the Popverse, Graham McMillan. Welcome back, Graham.
There. Hello. I have to ask, does your shirt say host spider or ghost spider?
Okay, so this is, I have to say, so last week it was Pokemon. This week I got 2 more parcels from Box Lunch. They're really spoiling me with their summer collection. So it actually says ghost spider, and then it says, I'm trying to read it upside down, an alternate universe, a twist of fate, Queens, New York. So I got.
So you say that I'm wearing the Pokemon shirt from last week.
I was gonna say, I was like, that's a really cool shirt. I wonder if you got it. That's how good the American postal system is. It got to Graham really, really fast.
Surprisingly fast.
Joan chiming in, the man, the myth, the legend, the Graham. That's right.
Oh no. Definitive article. It's a problem. Hi.
That should go on your business card.
That's my new business card.
Yeah, I know. You know,
I'm going to quote Jason. I'm going to cite Jason.
Yeah. Okay, so I have brought you on this week to talk about the state of publishing ? I could not figure out.
It's been quite a week.
Graham wrote 2 really fantastic features, and one of them is members only. It's of length, but I want to make sure that we talk about them. So first and foremost, let's talk about the comicsology of it all and what else are they gonna do? But as you point out, a valid question.
No,
What's going on with comicsology?
So I spent a few weeks talking to multiple people inside comicsology, former comicsology people, publishers who work with comicsology, people inside Amazon. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, everyone did not want to be quoted by name, which I thought was really funny.
Yay.
But my question was basically, where is comicsology now?
Yeah.
You know, we had layoffs in January that were really extensive. They got rid of basically 3/4 of the staff.
Yeah.
And the Marvel app, the Marvel Comics app, closed down or is closing down in a couple of weeks. And that turns out to be Comixology's choice. That wasn't a Marvel choice. That was a Comixology decision. And I wanted to basically find out, what are people doing at Comixology? What are people doing at Amazon? And the short answer is, a lot of people are also asking that question.
Yes.
There is a lot of uncertainty about what's going on. We have heard that there are more layoffs coming. We've heard that people are on short-term contracts. There is a very real possibility that Comixology as a brand might only be a brand by the end of the year, or might not even exist.
So to the layoffs of it all, you also established that people who know their contracts may or are probably ending don't necessarily know when. It's all vaguely this summer.
I was given multiple dates by multiple people.
Yes.
I was told the contracts ended in June. I was told the contracts ended in July. I was told the contracts ended in August. It's possible that everyone has a different end date for the contract.
I just find that so fascinating because San Diego Comic-Con is happening smack dab in the middle of that toward the end of July, which means either somebody in the higher Amazon echelon who has more things to worry about than just comics, which is quite a small little publishing sphere, is unaware of that, or two, there is some announcement coming out of San Diego Comic-Con that may tie into all of this.
Yes, I mean, there's also the possibility that the short-term contracts that people have been on since January will be replaced with long-term contracts with Amazon.
Yes, yeah.
You know, that's a possibility, right? There's a possibility that people will just be folded into Amazon proper. It doesn't necessarily mean people are going to be laid off. But that said, I also heard that there's layoffs coming this fall. So, you know, there's an incredible amount of uncertainty, an incredible amount of nervousness happening out there. But also, a lot of people who have left are also of the opinion that, like, there needs to be the record set straight about what happened.
There was an accidental use of the phrase Kindle Comics, which I think is very interesting that you point out. That
with the Kindle integration last year.
Yeah.
So the Amazon and Comixology, you know, officially integrated is the term they're using when they got rid of the Comixology website and they redirect everyone to Amazon. And it was supposed to be, the landing page was supposed to say Comixology. And instead it said Kindle Comics for about a day.
Which feels prophetic, does it not?
But I've spoken to enough people who swear on their lives that it was a mistake. And that includes people who have no reason to lie, basically. People who are no longer with the company, don't have fond feelings for the company anymore. Will also say, like, you know, that was an error.
Yeah.
But like there was another error this past weekend where Comixology Unlimited subscribers got an email about the price change on their Kindle Unlimited subscription, which they didn't have.
Fascinating, Kat.
Which also, from talking to multiple people just this week, is also an error. What is not prophetic or a hint or foreshadowing for folding the subscriptions together. But again, these errors are very strange and suggest that behind the scenes there is some confusion about what is Comixology and what is Kindle.
Okay, I want to continue this discussion, but I want to talk about the other big publishing news that came out this week and sort of circle back, and that is Image leaving Diamond for Lunar, and Lunar now having such a huge market share compared to when it felt like they first came onto the scene during the height of lockdown. So can you explain this a little bit, and then I'll circle back to an all-encompassing question. Image
moving from Diamond to Lunar is a big deal.
Yeah.
Image was by far Diamond's largest account. Diamond has now lost the top 5 publishers in comics in the last 3 years.
Casually, yeah.
It's lost DC, Marvel, Image, IDW, and Dark Horse. All of them are no longer being distributed through Diamond, which is an issue. Image going exclusively with Lunar is also a big deal for Lunar. Lunar now has 2 of the 3 biggest publishers in the North American comics market. And it has them on an exclusive contract. As Diamond emphatically told me more than once on the day the news broke, they're still offering Image as a wholesaler. You can, if you're a retailer, still buy Image comics through Diamond, but you're buying them essentially after they've already been bought from Lunar. And from talking to retailers, that's not great for the retailers. It means they cost more, basically.
And there's also a breakdown of, from a publisher standpoint, a comics imprint versus a books imprint, which feels arbitrary and confusing when you think about a local comic book shop as the direct market.
Well, the very strange thing is, so Image is no longer is with Lunar exclusively for comics and for the direct market.
Yeah.
Image is still being distributed by Diamond Book Distribution for its collected editions.
Yeah.
Comic stores can buy from Diamond Book Distribution.
Yeah.
Just to like really muddy the water.
Yeah, does it not feel like they're trying to eat their cake and have it too, in a way?
It's a very strange move from Image, but I also suspect it might be because contractually they're still bound there. It's very they're probably different end dates for their deals.
See, this is why I need you, because I would not have thought about that, and that is a very like obvious, like, oh yeah, probably they're different contracts. It's giving me vibes of the Comixology thing, because it feels like Amazon is like, their books do really well, right? Whether it's Kindle, Amazon Originals, or like Amazon was built as a book distributor initially.
Yes, yeah.
And it feels like they're trying to condense comics and treat comics with not the same respect that they're treating their even collected editions or their prose books, in the same way that it feels like right now Image is trying to be like, comics can do this and books can do this, and we're all figuring it out. Like, all of this feels the same but different in this really strange way to me.
I'm not sure this is the same thing. I think that, especially in talking to people within Amazon, within Comixology, both sides will say there's a culture clash.
Yeah.
That Amazon doesn't necessarily understand what comics is as a culture, what comics is as a market, and what comics fans want.
Yeah.
One of the things I heard from multiple people about the integration going wrong, because it did. I don't know if you remember when the integration happened. Like,
I sure do remember. I sure do.
Lots of things did not work for a couple of days.
Yeah.
You know, and I talked to people who were there who said just flat out, the problem with that is you're dealing with a lot of people who don't read comics.
Yeah.
So they don't understand what it means to have your catalog there. They don't understand what it means to have guided view. Yeah. Because they don't use it. They just think, well, the page is there.
Yeah.
And sure, you've got issue 3, but you don't have issue 2. But that's fine, because issue 2 will show up and it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Whereas for comics fans, that stuff really matters. That's very important. Right? And so the lack of a comics culture within the digital comics field at Amazon is a problem. I think that's shown itself in how, honestly, the customers now feel about Comixology. I think there's a great suspicion. I think publishers also would like to find something else. But, you know, as the piece says, you know, where else is everyone going to go at this point? Like, there's been 10 years of publishing basically and selling only through Comixology. That's not easily replaceable.
Well, I would love to know, because they have Distillery right now nipping at their heels, which is not trying to do what Comixology does, but has, I mean, I would say, I'm inclined to say poached, but I don't think that's correct, but has hired a lot of people who used to work for Comixology in very prominent roles. But they're not.
Distillery is
right. Like,
Distillery is David, the co-founder of Comixology,
and Chip, the face of Comixology in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Distillery is a different thing. Distillery is a publisher that has its own app, basically, and their digital comics are only going to exist on those apps. Their collected editions aren't. The collected editions are going to be available through Amazon.
I know, that's fascinating to me. But
that gets back to the Image thing you're talking about, right? Where collected editions and single issues are being treated as a very different product. And I think we're going to see more of that. It's worth remembering, DC before the Lunar changeover, in fact, still does, has a different distributor to the book market than it does to the comic market.
Most publishers do, actually, in fact.
Because they're very different markets and you know, very different needs to be served. So it's not, the Image thing isn't incredibly different, but the idea that like a collected edition is a very different property, is a very different, you know, product. You know, I was trying to think of another way of saying product, because I hate product as a term.
You sound like
it is
the guy from Apple who's like the product.
Exactly. It's like, you know, it's content. It's a different piece of content. But
all content, Graham. It's all content.
But I think publishers are beginning to realize like collected editions are very different things. You know, single issues sell to an existing or a very specific market, maybe not an existing market, but a specific market who want specific things, and books don't. Books go somewhere else and do something else and should act as something else. And I think the Image thing and the Distillery thing is signs that people are now beginning to actually take steps to do something about that.
Okay, so we have thrown a lot of information at people. I would love to know, as the person who worked on both these stories, they both released this week. Is there any like summation or takeaway that our viewers need to have besides, boy, comics publishing is wild right now?
Well, what's funny is you're saying this, and I'm like, well, there's also the third story this week about the Eisners and Thomas Woodruff and the backlash about that.
We don't have
which
the
is,
time.
no, I know. But what I was going to say is all three of them together, I think, really show that everything's in flux right now. Publishing's in flux, distribution's in flux, print versus digital is in flux. The fan relationship, the reader relationship to creators is in flux. I think all of the entities that were formerly powerful, the creators, the publishers, the distributors, don't know what they're doing necessarily, and are trying to catch up, and are trying to just stay afloat in what is becoming increasingly turbulent space. And I think that's only going to get more so in the next couple of years than less. I don't think there's going to be a new normal for a while. I think we're all just going to be trying to stay afloat.
And the best way that we can do that as consumers is to support as directly as possible, right? The creators and the stories that we love the most.
Yeah, exactly. Like voting with your dollars is a real thing.
Yeah.
And arguably is a more important thing now than ever before.
If anyone does want more information about the Eisner story, we have great coverage of it over on the popverse.com. But this episode is already long.
I know. I'd introduce something more. You've already done 45 minutes, but let's go longer.
It's okay. Casual. Graham, I asked you last week what you're geeking out about because I never asked you that. So I want to ask you, since we started on the comicsology of it all, are you a full page or a guided view person? What is your
I'm full page. Guided view just confuses the living hell out of me. I'm full page. Guided view is just wrong. It's a sin. I'm
also full page, unless it was something that was originally made to be a digital comic, because on your splash pages, I find it very confusing. But I'm always interested in who wants what from their
No, full page. And every time I accidentally put it into guided view, I always get upset.
You're just like panicking, like, no.
I'm like, no, I don't need it that big. No, I don't. It's not meant to be that big.
I was gonna leave you with that, but we have a really great question from Mr. David Hyde himself, saying, Graham, when did your beard become a tribute to Mike Mignola?
When I have completely failed to cut it. It's very overgrown. It's not a good look, David, and you're right. Thank you for calling me out.
It's your Mountain Man era. I really love it for you.
It will be much shorter by Comic-Con, I promise.
I thought you were going to say
between now and Comic-Con, but it will be much shorter at Comic-Con when
that's like 6 weeks away. I thought you were going to say by next week, and I was going to be like, I can't wait to see it.
It will be shorter by next week.
Okay, great.
That's a promise.
Tiffany doesn't believe you. Graham, thank you for joining us and explaining in a really digestible way two very different but related stories. I really appreciate you. And I do think the comicsology piece is like really, really spectacular. So I hope everyone goes and checks it out.
Well, thank you very much.
And I'm going to make you tell people your Twitter, because I know you don't want Twitter followers, but where can they follow you online? I'm
at Graham M on Twitter, at GRAEME. Oh, wait, I can't spell my own name every time. GRAEMEM. That's how you spell my Twitter account. Too many M's. So go over there and follow Graham and tell him how much you love each and every appearance he makes. I'm going to send you away because it has been quite long, and I'll see you very soon. Bye. See you next week. Yeah. Everybody who joined us, thank you so much. We went here, there, and everywhere with this episode. This was our most ambitious episode yet. I had a great time. I hope you all had a great time watching. Thank you for joining us, as always, here in the Popverse, which is a virtual realm created by Read Pop, celebrating the best in TV, movies, and comics. If you want anything else, any notes, anything that you think you missed, down in the show notes, of course, we will have links to everything that we referenced here in this week's episode. And you can find all of these stories and so much more incredible content of every ilk over at thepopverse.com. And while you're there, of course, why not get yourself a Popverse membership if you want to read Graham's incredible comicsology coverage? And like, truly, I read it first thing this morning and I sent him a note. It's so good. It's so comprehensive. It is a members only read. So get yourself a membership. Check that out and have the full experience while you are here.
Thanks for joining us. Popverse says officially. That's right. We're so glad to have each and every one of you, all of you beautiful, sexy people joining us. As a reminder, if you are a UK European fan, MCM is on right now, right this second in London. So get the train, drive over there, check it out. And then our next live show that I am going to be at is the July 4th weekend, Florida SuperCon in Miami, Florida. I'm so excited to be over there joining. While you're here and you want to see more like this, yes, this was a super fun, happy time. You want to come back next week and never miss a single thing, do what the banner says, like, subscribe, click that bell so you never miss a single thing that we are getting up to here in the Popverse. I have been your video producer and host, Ashley Victoria Robinson. Have a wonderful day, my friends, and I will see you next time.